Hi guys, welcome to Sourcing Classes. This is Hima Hegde presenting before you the weekly news podcast, all the relevant news for the week and more. To begin with, let us look at the topics under light for today. In today's session, we will be discussing the Typhoon Goni, La Nina, Contempt of Court, Draft Model Act on Land Titles and Beached Whales. So the first topic for today's session is Typhoon Goni. Recently, the Typhoon Goni or Typhoon Rolly as it is called in the Philippines has hit the eastern Philippines. The Philippines is used to powerful storms. It is hit by an average of 20 storms and typhoons every year. Let us first dive into some of the basics. So first of all, hurricane, typhoon or a cyclone, they are all basically the same things. That is, they are tropical storms, but they are known by different names in different regions. That is, in the North Atlantic Ocean and the North Pacific Ocean, that is the North Atlantic Ocean. This is the North Atlantic Ocean, then this is the South Atlantic Ocean. So in the North Atlantic Ocean and the Northeast Pacific Ocean, that is this region, it is called as a hurricane. Whereas in the Northwest Pacific Ocean, that is in this region, it is called as a typhoon. Whereas in South Pacific Ocean and in the Indian Ocean, that is this region, it is called as a cyclone. Now, how are these storms formed? How are these cyclones or hurricanes or typhoons formed? So firstly, upon being heated by the warm seawater, the air above the ocean rises quickly. Upon being heated, the air gets lighter. As a result, it rises quickly. So the water evaporates from the ocean surface and comes into contact with a mass of cold air, which leads to the formation of clouds. So once the water evaporates and then comes into the contact with the cold air, it leads to the formation of clouds. Then when this happens, a column of low pressure area develops at the center, and around this center, around the low pressure column, high speed winds develop. Over the sea, a tropical storm can whip up huge waves. When these waves reach land, they can flood large areas including towns and cities. As the pressure in the center increases, the speed of the wind around that column also increases. The strong winds can cause a lot of damage and they can flatten homes, knock over trees, and even tip over cars on the land. So let us now look at the structure of a cyclone. The structure of a cyclone. So basically a cyclone has three parts, that is the eye wall and the rain bands. So coming to the eye, as you can see in the picture, this is the eye of the cyclone. The eye of the storm is the center. It is the center. It's a relatively calm space. The eye of the cyclone is a calm space, and when the eye passes over an area, the winds slow down. The winds in the eye are comparatively slow and calm. So the winds slow down and everything feels like it has cleared up. The part that comes after the eye usually inflicts the most damage. The next part would be the eye wall, that is this part. This is the eye and this is the eye wall. We'll discuss about the spiral rain bands later. So this is the eye wall. The eye wall is where the most effective part of the cyclone rests. The most effective or the most destructive part of the cyclone rests. The eye wall houses extremely high speed winds. Extremely high speed winds causing damage to both lives and property. It is a ring of thunderstorms, and changes in the eye or the eye wall affects the storm's intensity. It causes a lot of damage. As we have already discussed, it can be extremely catastrophic. So the next part is the spiral rain bands. As you can see the spiral structure, this is the eye, this is the eye wall, and around it are the strong winds, and you can see the formation of more or less a spiral structure. So these are called the spiral rain bands. These are the outer parts of a cyclone. The outer parts of a cyclone where sudden bursts of rains occur. The sudden bursts of rains are often seen in the spiral rain bands. There can also be gaps. There can be gaps between these rain bands. As you can see, there are minute gaps between the rain bands where no rain or wind occurs. That is, it is a calm place. Wherever you see the gaps, just like the eye, they are the calm places. So that's about it in the first article. Moving on, we have an important weather phenomenon called the La Nina. So why are we discussing La Nina? The La Nina weather phenomenon is back in the central and eastern equatorial Pacific Ocean. In the central and eastern equatorial Pacific Ocean after nearly a decade's absence, says the World Meteorological Organization, that is the WMO, in its latest global seasonal update released on 29th of October 2020. So, coming to the implications, La Nina will result in the seawater temperatures or the sea surface temperatures between 2 and 3 degrees Celsius cooler than the average. The La Nina could last into 2021, affecting the temperatures, precipitation, and storm patterns in many parts of the world. We'll look into the weather changes that will happen. So, before that, we need to understand what exactly is La Nina. So, La Nina basically means large scale cooling of the ocean surface. Large scale cooling of the ocean surface temperatures in the central and eastern equatorial Pacific Ocean, together with the changes in atmospheric circulation, namely the winds, pressure, and rainfall. So, it is basically cooling of the ocean surface temperatures. It has opposite impacts on weather as seen in the El Nino. Now, El Nino is a warm phase and La Nina is a cooling phase. So, both are opposite in nature and both are similar weather phenomenon. Further, a very strong La Nina occurred in the year 1988 and scientists believe that it may have been responsible for the summer drought over the central North America. One of the hurricanes that developed named Mitch was the strongest October hurricane ever to develop in about 100 years of the record keeping. So, coming to the most important part, let us look into the weather changes that will be seen because of the La Nina. So, firstly, the Horn of Africa and Central Asia will see below average rainfall. Will see below average rainfall due to the La Nina. Next, East Africa. East Africa is forecast to see drier than usual conditions, which together with the existing impact of the desert locust invasion may add to the regional food insecurity. It could also lead to an increased rainfall in southern Africa. In East Africa, we will find the drier than usual climate due to La Nina. However, in southern Africa, there could be increased rainfall. Next, in Southeast Asia and some of the Pacific Islands and northern region of South America, above average rainfall are expected to be seen. In India, La Nina means the country will receive more rainfall than normal, leading to flood-like conditions. So that's about it with the second article. The third article for today's session would be contempt of court. This topic has been in light lately. You're likely to be familiar with the Prashant Bhushan case as well. However, in today's session, the context behind this topic would be the Attorney General declines consent to initiate contempt case against Andhra CM Jagan Reddy. So, what is the issue? Now, last month, CM Jagan Reddy had written to the CGI S.A. Bobde alleging the Andhra Pradesh High Court was used to destabilize and topple my democratically elected government. So, following this, a lawyer had written a letter to the Attorney General seeking his consent to initiate contempt proceedings against Reddy and his advisor. One doesn't have to dive into the political aspect of the news. However, since this has been a recurring topic, like in the Prashant Bhushan case and now the Jagan Reddy case, I just made you familiar with the context. We'll have to know the concept of what exactly is the contempt of court and relevant provisions for now. So let us look into what is contempt. So the basic idea of contempt law is to punish those who disrespect or disobey the orders of the court. So the basic idea of contempt of court is to punish those who do not respect the orders of the court. However, in Indian context, the contempt is also used to punish speech that lowers the dignity of the court and interferes with the administration of justice. Now, this definition, that is the one which lowers the dignity of court and interferes with the administration of justice, can fit into two kinds. That is, basically the contempt of court can be of two kinds. Firstly, we have the civil contempt, that is willful disobedience. Willful as in intentionally disobeying. Intentionally disobeying a court order or a judgment, or even willful breach as in breaking a law. So when you willfully disobey or break a court order, now this comes under civil contempt of court. Now what is criminal contempt? Now any written or spoken words or any act that scandalizes the court or lowers its authority or dignity, or also interferes or obstructs the due course of its judicial proceedings or the administration of justice. Now this is called criminal contempt. Now let us look into the relevant provisions or the related provisions in the Constitution. So firstly we have the Articles 129 and 215. Articles 129 and 215 of the Constitution of India empowers the Supreme Court and the High Court respectively to punish people for their respective contempt. Section 10 of the Contempt of Courts Act 1971 defines the power of the High Court to punish the contempt of its subordinate courts. Also, the Constitution includes contempt of court as a reasonable restriction to the freedom of speech and expression under Article 19. As you've already seen in the civil contempt and the criminal contempt, that the concept of contempt is about punishing the ones whose speech would lower the dignity of court. So accordingly, they believe that it obstructs the freedom of speech and expression under Article 19 along with the elements like public order and defamation. So here's an important note. Now there is no requirement for the Supreme Court to take Attorney General's consent in initiating a criminal contempt proceeding on its own. So why is this? Because it exercises inherent power under the Constitution in issuing the show cause notice. So this is why the Attorney General's consent will not be required. So that's about it for the contempt of court. Draft Model Act on Land Titles. So the Niti Aayog has released the Draft Model Act and rules for states on conclusive land titling. So before we look into anything else, we need to understand what exactly is land titling or land titles. So in the most simple sense, land titling is the process where the land is handed from the previous owner to the future owner. Now each territory or state would have their own register documenting who owns what land. Either you buy the land from a developer or you purchase the land through a private sale. So basically, it is the process where the land is handed to the future owner from the previous owner. So moving on, what is the exact objective behind the Draft Model Act on land titles? So now this would reduce litigations, that is the legal actions or any legalities, and ease the land acquisition process. That is, it would ease up the process of acquiring the land, of obtaining the land for infrastructure projects or any other purposes. Now, what exactly is under this act? So first of all, the state governments will have the power to order establishment, administration and management of a system of title registration of immovable properties. After 3 years of its notification, the register of title attains conclusively without any external action. So after 3 years of the legalities or after 3 years of notification, the title will be attained without any external action. The Land Dispute Resolution Officer, I repeat, the Land Dispute Resolution Officer and the Land Title Appellate Tribunal, these two are the institutions. In fact, these two are one-shot institutions which will fade away as the work reduces. Conclusive land titles are guaranteed. They are guaranteed for correctness and entails provision by the state for compensation by the state in case of any dispute. Any person who is unfairly treated may file an objection before the title registration office within 3 years from the date of such notification. A special bench of the High Court shall be designated to deal with appeals against the orders passed by the Land Titling Appellate Tribunal. Now, what is the need for the same? What is the significance of it? The obvious one would be the easy access of credit to farmers. That is, they would facilitate easy access of credit to the farmers and reduce a large number of land related litigations, that is, all the legalities. It will also enable land related litigations. It would also enable transparent real estate transactions and land acquisition for infrastructure related developments. Most importantly, guaranteed title systems have been developed and adopted in countries such as Australia, New Zealand, Singapore, and the United Kingdom. Moving on, now this article can be mapped with the biodiversity and conservation related issues part of the syllabus in General Studies 3. So it reads, Sri Lanka saves 120 stranded or beached whales. Around 120 beached or stranded pilot whales were saved or rescued in Sri Lanka. Now this rescue was conducted by Navy officers along with the help of environment protection officers and the protection and the local residents. The police also was involved in the same. So what exactly is stranding or beaching of the whales? Now this is a very common phenomenon where the whales or the dolphins move over to the land from water. Now the stranding, to strand is to move. So the whales that are commonly found in the water, they move to the land when this happens. So why do the whales do this? Why do whales beach or strand themselves? That is, why do they move from the waters to the land? You can see this is what it looks like when all the whales have moved from their natural ecohabitat to the land. So why do they do this? Firstly, and the most common reason, is the changes in the water temperature. Changes in the water temperature, a related point is found here, that is inclement weather. Inclement weather as in very unpleasantly cold or wet weather. This would cause them to move over to the land from the water. Next, irregularities in the whale's echolocation. If lately the whale's habitat, the location which is currently occupied by the whale, is being irregular or unfavorable, then they move over to the land. Geomagnetic disturbances. Now these phenomena mostly occur in the Earth's magnetosphere. Errors made in the navigation, errors made by the whale in the navigation. If the whale is hunting too close to the shore, then they'll end up stranding or they'll end up moving over to the land. Sonar interference. So these are some of the common reasons as to why whales beach themselves. That is why whales get stranded. They move over to the land from the water. This is obviously fatal to the whales. Now let me read out some of the recent instances to you. In September, several hundred whales died on the coast of Tasmania in Australia in one of the country's biggest stranding on record and of the largest in the world. Now the largest mass stranding in the modern recorded history was of 1,000 whales. On the shore of the Chatham Islands, a New Zealand territory in the Pacific Ocean in 1918. So what are pilot whales? Now pilot whales are the largest members of the dolphin family. They are the largest members of the dolphin family and one of the whale species most often involved in the mass strandings or the mass beachings. So why is it called pilot whales? Now because it was thought that each pod, that is each group, followed a pilot in the group. So it is basically the leader species. Now it is commonly seen in tight sociable pods, that is they are very social creatures. They are often found in groups and each group or a pod has between 20 to 100 whales. So that's about it. Now we have something called as the Fast Four, where we will be discussing facts or snippets for the week. This will be relevant for the preliminary examination. So firstly, we have the 16 Psyche. Now what is 16 Psyche? It is an asteroid which orbits between Mars and Jupiter. 16 Psyche is an asteroid that orbits between Mars and Jupiter. It is located around 370 million kilometers away from the Earth in the asteroid belt. It was first discovered in the 1850s and was named after the ancient Greek goddess of the soul called Psyche. Ancient Greek goddess of soul called the Psyche. So why is it in news? A recent study plus the images from NASA's Hubble Space Telescope has shown that the surface of this asteroid, that is the 16th Psyche asteroid, is entirely made of metal, that is mostly iron, nickel and also copper, which has an estimated worth of $10,000 quadrillion. $10,000 quadrillion, which is more than the entire economy of the earth. Next, we have the Mansar Lake Development Plan. The Mansar Lake Development Plan in Jammu and Kashmir was inaugurated recently. Now, this project is eyed to attract almost 20 lakh tourists every year and create employment for 1.15 crore man days with an income generation of rupees 800 crore per year. So that's a huge amount, 20 lakh tourists plus an employment of 1.15 crore man days, generating an income of rupees 800 crore every year. Now about the Mansar Lake, it is situated 62 kilometers from Jammu, and the Surinsar Mansar Lake are designated as the Ramsar Convention in November 2005. So next, we have something called as Power Scheme. So the power stands for promoting opportunities for women in exploratory research. It is a scheme for women scientists. This scheme is to mitigate gender disparity. The Power Scheme, which involves promoting opportunities for women, is to eliminate or mitigate the gender disparity in science and engineering research funding in various S&T programs, that is the science and technology related programs, in the Indian academic institutions and research and development laboratories. So now this was launched by SERB, that is the Science and Engineering Research Board. Now what is this? It is a statutory body of the Department of Science and Technology. Now this will have two components, namely the SERB Power Fellowship and SERB Power Research Grants. Lastly, we have the species called as the Travancore tortoise. Now it is the largest tortoise species, growing up to 330 millimeter in length. So this grows up to 330 millimeter in length. Coming to its status, so why is it in the news? Now it is according to the IUCN Red List. As per the IUCN Red List, now this species, that is the Travancore tortoise, is designated to be vulnerable. It is vulnerable. Speaking of its distribution, it is restricted to the Western Ghats in the Indian states of Kerala, Karnataka and Tamil Nadu. So that's about it for the Fast 4. With that, we have come to the end of today's session. Hope you found it informative. For any details on the course, you could visit the official website of Sourcing Classes, that is www.sourcingclasses.com.